Hi every Hi everybody. Welcome to Get Your Play Online. Today we're going to be making Hi everyone. Welcome to Get Your Play Online. We are going to be doing some make your own iSpy ocean jars today. And so this is one that I made earlier, and so I just put some little rocks in here that I had and some figurines, and so I just used an old water bottle, and so I'll pretty much just like shake it around until I find the little pieces that I put in here. So I'm excited to make that with you today. And since we'll be finding our ocean creatures in our iSpy jars, I decided that we would start by reading Finding Nemo. And so let's get started. Nemo, Nemo, Marlin called out. No, no. It had all happened so fast. 1 minute, little Nemo was right there, playing the daredevil and swimming over the reef drop-off to touch the bottom of a boat. The next minute, the colorful clownfish had been snatched up and taken away by two scuba divers. Marlin was beside himself with worry. Nemo, his only child, was gone. Marlin swam after the boat that carried Nemo away, but it had disappeared. Help me, Marlin shouted to a group of fish swimming by. Has anyone seen a boat? A regal blue tang named Dory stopped to help. It went this way, she said. Follow me. But Dory was very forgetful. She forgot what she was doing. She led Marlin in circles. Marlin had no time to lose. He turned to go and came face to face with a shark. There were 3 of them. To Marlin's surprise, the sharks were friendly, until Dory accidentally hit her nose on a scuba diver's mask, and one of the sharks got a whiff of blood and he went shark mad. Dory and Marlin escaped with the mask and found there was writing on it. Was it a clue to finding Nemo? They nearly lost the mask and had a run-in with a vicious anglerfish before Dory managed to read the writing. P. Sherman, 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney. Some moonfish gave Marlin and Dory directions to Sydney, and the two set off at once. But as they swam over a deep trench, a school of jellyfish surrounded them. Marlin and Dory dodged the stinging tentacles. Marlin made it through, but Dory? Marlin called, looking around. Dory! Marlin retraced his steps. He found Dory entwined in jellyfish, seemingly lifeless. Marlin was stung several times as he pulled his friend to safety. Then everything went black. Marlin awoke on the shell of a sea turtle named Crush. He and Dory were safe. Together with the other turtles, they were riding the East Australian Current. Crush helped Marlin and Dory exit the current at Sydney Harbor. They knew they had to be getting close to P. Sherman, 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney, and Nemo. But which way was it? Now let's ask. Let's ask somebody for directions, Dory suggested. Too bad the first somebody they bumped into was a hungry whale. The whale swallowed them up. Things were looking very grim indeed. But then the giant beast surfaced and ejected them through its waterspout into Sydney Harbor. They looked all night for the boat that had taken Nemo. The next morning, they were scooped up by a pelican. They resisted being swallowed until the pelican finally spat them out onto the pier. I gotta find my son Nemo, Marlin said with a gasp. Another pelican named Nigel overheard Marlin. I know where your son is, he told Marlin. Nigel had heard lots of stories about this superfish who was battling the ocean dangers to reach his son. Nigel rescued Marlin and Dory from a flock of seagulls and carried them straight to a dentist's office where Nemo had become the newest addition to a fish tank. They arrived just in time. Nemo had been playing dead as part of an escape plan, but it had backfired. The dentist, P. Sherman, was about to throw Nemo into the trash can. Nigel burst into the office for a few moments. All was confusion as Nigel and the tank fish worked together to save Nemo. One second, guys. Let me just put my dog inside. Banshee, come here. Come here. In. Hey, in. Sorry about that, everybody. All right. The dentist, P. Sherman, was about to throw Nemo into the trash can. Nigel burst into the office for a few moments. All was confusion as Nigel and the tankfish worked together to save Nemo, while the dentist and his niece Darla tried to recapture them. In the end, Nemo was catapulted into the spit sink and went down the drain. "Don't worry," shouted Gil, one of the tankfish. "All drains led to the ocean." Nigel scooped up Marlin and Dory and raced to the sewer run out in the harbor. Back in the harbor, after getting separated from Dory and misdirected by some crabs, Marlin peered through the murky water and could not believe his eyes. There was Dory, and with her was Nemo! Marlin cried out. "Daddy!" Nemo shouted. They swam toward another, just as a fishing net ensnared Dory, along with a school of grouper fish. Thinking quickly, Nemo rushed into the net while Marlin swam around the outside. "Swim down," they called the fish. As the fish swam against the fishing line, the winch on the fishing boat strained, then broke. The net unraveled. The fish were free. But where was Nemo? Marlin gasped when he spotted him, lying motionless beneath the tangled net. "Nemo," Marlin said as she cradled his son in his fins. Finally, Nemo's eyes fluttered open. He smiled weakly and coughed. "Dad?" he said. "Oh, thank goodness," said Marlin, breathing a sigh of relief. At last, he had Nemo back. So now we're going to make our own iSpy jars, and maybe we can find Nemo inside our jars. So you can use a mason jar or an old water bottle, or just a plastic water bottle that you have at home, a reusable one. And we're gonna put some blue beads into them. I use blue rocks just because that's what I had, but if you have blue beads, that works too. And if you don't have little figurines, then you could use maybe like a different color bead. Like if you're using all blue beads, maybe throw in a couple yellow ones, and then those are the things that you search for. Or if you don't have like ocean beads either, you can just use random figurines. Like in the example that I made, I just had some like little Disney figurines. So I have like a Dumbo or Pumbaa. So those are the ones I put in my example. But for the activity that we're going to do today, I have some little glass fish beads. So we're going to put these in there. And when we're filling up our bottles, I like to kind of put a little bit of rocks or beads and then add like one or two of the fish that we'll be looking for. And then add a little bit more rocks and beads and then add a couple more fish. That way they're kind of all spread around, so it's a lot easier to find. So the only materials that we'll need for this is the water bottle, like I said, some rocks or beads to fill it, and then whatever figurines or trinkets that you want to use to search for in your iSpy jar. So let's get started. I'm going to start just by scooping some of the rocks that I have into my water bottle. Alright, So I filled it up about like this much. And then I'll throw a couple of them in here. Come here. Go inside. All right. So then I'm gonna fill it up a little bit more. Like this. And I'll probably add one more in there. This one got stuck. There we go. Alright, add a couple more. Yeah, I'll just do one. And then I'll add my other one. And we don't want to fill it all the way because we want to be able to kind of move it around so that we can search for things. And if you fill it all the way, it's going to be kind of hard to move all of the little rocks around. So like I said, if you don't have like the little figurines, even just throwing in something that's a different color that stands out a lot, that would make it something that you can find. Just a little bit more. All right. Shake it around. And then I put the cover on so that I can shake it and start finding things. And so I'll probably just like twist it around, and found one here. Let's see. Oh, another one. And you can decide however many you want to put in. If you want to put in a lot of trinkets to find, or just a few to make it maybe a bit harder to find one of them, then you can do that too. Whatever you like. And so then we can talk about maybe some of the animals that you might find in your iSpy ocean jar. So all I did was put some fish, but some of the other like sea creatures and ocean creatures that you might find, I have this encyclopedia here. We can talk a little bit about those. And so a lot of times in oceans, many animals will live in coral reefs. And so coral reefs are just like warm, shallow parts of the sea. And there's usually a lot of colors. They're made of like thousands and thousands of animals and like coral pieces. And so I think one of like the biggest coral reefs in the world is the Great Barrier Reef, and that's located in Australia. And so they sometimes look like this. And so some of the other animals that you might find would be some octopus, seahorses, pufferfish maybe. And usually all of the animals live together, and they most of them will get along pretty well. Some of them, it's like a web of life, And so that's what this picture shows here, about how what animals eat and how some animals eat other animals. So then we can learn about some of the other animals that you might find in your reef or maybe your iSpy jar. There's some poisonous animals. And so we have pictures of these here. So some of the poisonous animals would be box jellyfish, Portuguese man-o-war, rabbitfish, stonefish, or cone shell. There's also such thing as sea snakes. That's a little picture down here. And so sea snakes hunt fish, and they swim and live underwater. And I'm sure many of you know all about sharks. And so sharks are fish that live in oceans all over the world, and there's more than 300 different kinds of sharks. And so probably the most common one that people hear a lot about are great white sharks. And so there's a question here. Sharks, like dolphin and whales, sometimes swim near the surface of the sea with their dorsal, or their fin on their back, sticking out of the water. So which of these do you think is a shark's fin? So this is the question here. So we have three options, A, B, or C. So which one of those looks like a shark fin to you guys? And so the first one, this one is a dolphin fin. This one is a shark's fin, the middle one, and this one is actually a whale's fin. So you might find some sharks, dolphin, and whales in the ocean or in your iSpy jar. Then we also might find some stingrays. And so there's also hundreds of different kinds of stingrays, and they have flat bodies. Some are harmless, but some have a poisonous stinger on their tail. And there's also electric rays that give you a shock. And so depending on which whale it is, different whales spray out of their spout differently. So this one is a humpback whale. This one's a blue whale, a minke whale, a right whale, and a sperm whale. So the whales have to come up to the surface to breathe, and so when they do, they blow out of the hole on the top of their head, and that's what makes these little spouts, these different spouts. So dolphins are about the most intelligent, one of the most intelligent animals in the sea, and usually they swim together, and that's called a school of dolphins. And so dolphins also breathe air, and when a baby dolphin is born, the mother has to push its baby up to the surface and teach it how to breathe. And they also communicate using echoes. And so a dolphin may make like a clicking sound, or and when they do, it might like hit some fish and bounce back, and then they can tell exactly where the fish are. So that's pretty cool. And then we have some deep sea creatures that live in some dark and cold places. So we have vampire squid, a hatchet fish, a viper fish, lantern fish, flashlight fish, They all look pretty cool, and because it's so dark at the bottom, some of these fish have ways of making light, and also because of that, it sometimes attracts other animals, so that they'll use the light to catch food. And that, I think, this anglerfish, that's actually the fish from Finding Nemo that Marlin and Dory encountered after running away from the sharks. So he has this little light on his head that he tries to catch prey with. And then there's also, you might have turtles or eels in the ocean. And then outside of the ocean, you have things like walruses or penguins. And sea lions. Well, sea lions still live in the ocean, but yeah, so those are some things that you might find in your iSpy jar, depending on what you put. And so I hope you guys get a chance to use this and keep searching for, like, the more that you shake it up, the more that you'll find. And so you can just keep moving it around and shaking it up and see what you can get out of it. And yeah, well, thanks for joining today. I appreciate you guys joining to make these iSpy jars, and I hope that you use them in the future. All right, see you next week.